The Red Zone Home Show is back. We are talking our unofficial champions from around the state. We'll take a look ahead to some of the Thanksgiving weekend games we have coming up, plus a look at how much COVID has affected this season, and we'll take a trip back on memory lane to look at the 2020 football season. We have a big show ahead, so let's get it started. Welcome into another edition of the Red Zone Home Show. Thank you for watching us live. I'm Ryan Ross. As I said, we have a lot to get through in this show. It's our second to last show, our last show in the format that you've been used to this entire season, because we'll get more into this later. We'll have an award show coming up in a couple of weeks. But before we get there, we're going to start our show, of course, in North Jersey and at the Jersey Shore. And to do that, we welcome in from NorthJersey.com, Darren Cooper, and from APP.com, Steve Falk. Guys, welcome back. Some unofficial championship games around the state, more delays, of course, some big-time results that we have to get through. Steve, we will start with you at the Shore because we have a game that's going to be talked about for a very long time.
It lived up to its billing. Wall versus Donovan Catholic, number 1 in the Shore versus number 2 in the Shore for the unofficial Shore Conference Championship of 2020. And it came down, Wall won the game 18-15, but it came down to a 4th and goal for Donovan Catholic from the Wall 2 with 1:06 remaining. The Griffins tried a wildcat play by putting in Levi Wilkins at quarterback. He had a brief hole, but Wall defensive tackle Kason Sanders stuffed up the hole, and then Charlie Sasso came in over the top, and Casey Larkin came in from the back, and they stopped Wilkins 6 inches short of the goal line to preserve Wall's 18-15 win and give the Crimson Knights the unofficial 2020 Shore Conference Championship. It was a wonderful football game, one of the best football games I think I've seen in a long time. 2 really talented teams playing hard, a lot of very good players on the field, a lot of plays made by the playmakers on both teams. Casey Larkin had a big night for Wall, rushing for 2 touchdowns. Jadeel Laughlin, Donovan Catholic's running back, had a big night, rushing for 2 touchdowns. Now, this is something that I think a lot of us would like to see the Shore Conference do in the future. Play 6 regular season games like the NJIC up north, then break it up into pods where each team gets matched with 3 other teams of similar ability, called a top group in the Shore Conference, the Shore Conference Championship pod, and play for a Shore Conference Championship. I think it would create a lot of buzz and a lot of juice around the Shore. If this had been a normal year, there would have been 5,000-6,000 people at Wall the other night lining the fence. They would have been 3-4 deep. I think this is something the Shore Conference needs to do. And then after that, they can go into the NJSIA playoffs and go from there. And that's my lasting memory from the season, too. It's the wonderful show Wall and Donovan Catholic put on, and it enabled us in the Shore to leave the season with a smile on our face.
Yes, and then we were able to crown an unofficial, as we say, champion here at the Shore. It was literally a game that it looked like a movie script, the way that it ended on the 6-inch line for Wall winning. Congrats to both teams. Outstanding seasons, of course. They played a great game here at the Shore. And up north to Darren, another list of great games that we had. First, unfortunately, we had a cancellation right before kickoff, and then our NJIC championship as well.
Well, first of all, let's just make clear. So, Falk, you're going to give credit to North Jersey for the idea of playing it down to a conference champ, right? Who did it first?
Yeah, your NJIC conference. They do it right.
So, guys, on Saturday morning, I got in the car to go to Del Barton, and I was thinking to myself, I've never actually covered a Del Barton football game before at Del Barton. I happened to walk onto the field with NJSIA Assistant Director Jack DuBois. About 15 minutes before kickoff, they call Mr. DuBois over behind the Del Barton bench. Unfortunately, there's a positive test of a Del Barton player. People want to blame Del Barton. They really shouldn't. If there's anyone to blame, it's this family who erred on wasn't taking the right precautions. Kid was positive. They pulled him off the field. It's like 1 o'clock. We're supposed to kick off. They never made any announcement over the PA. They just told the teams, I'm sorry, we can't play. So the Del Barton people, their season was over. It's a disappointing end to they were undefeated. We have no idea still how good they might have been. for Bergen Catholic, Jesus, their third cancellation. They are supposed to play St. Peter's on Saturday. But let's go back. Yes, Mr. Falk, we've been crowning conference champs in North Jersey for a long time. Nice of you guys to figure it out.
We're going to join the party.
We had NJIC Bowl game number 5. That's the one thing this game doesn't have is a real good name. It was Beckton against Waldwick Millen Park. Beckton was all over them from the jump. They scored 3 touchdowns on 2 plays because they had a punt return for a touchdown. They were up 21-0. Then it all came down to whether or not Beckton could shut them out, just like Ryan Ross made me predict that they would shut them out, but they did not. Waldwick Millen Park, outstanding running back Rashawn Markman scored 2 touchdowns, but it was all Beckton. The Wildcats triumphed 41-12, and they are the official NJIC champions. I don't know anything about this unofficial business. Beckton is the official North Jersey Interscholastic Conference champion for the first time.
I see they got a trophy, too.
Come on. Yeah. Do you need a trophy? Yes. If you're going to do this down the shore, you need to get a trophy.
Well, we will get a trophy once we're allowed to crown champions officially again.
And Beckton, as Darren said, sorry, my fault. I put Darren on the spot. He said no points allowed. They allowed, 12? Still
yes.
Nothing to shake your head at over the course of the season. 12 points over the course of a year. Great accomplishment, but sorry that I jinxed you, Beckton.
And by the way, Darren, how 2020 is that Bergen Catholic Del Barton story? That capped this whole season in a nutshell.
They never made any announcement. It was so interesting. It was.
And then with a result last night, Darren, we have a little bit of a debate raging of who should be number 1 in the entire state.
I think COVID-19 is number 1, right?
Yes.
Mr. Falk and I have already been talking about this. Yes. Of course, we're going to have chaos, right, Steve? And I am partial. I am definitely leaning toward Wall, but I do want to see the Bergen St. Peter's game on Saturday.
My thought is, and I know those North Jersey parochial teams. I know how talented they are. I think sometimes they get too much credit for beating each other and playing each other. At some point, we got to reward football teams that have gone unbeaten, like a Wall, or even like a Holy Spirit, or even like a Del Barton. Certainly, the shutdown of their game the other day is not their fault. That's a circumstance. I would vote for Wall. They're 19-1 over the last 2 years. The only loss was when Casey Larkin didn't play in the South Regional Championship game last year because of a concussion. They've done everything that's asked of them. They beat a very good team in Donovan Catholic last week. The week before, they beat a modern day.
Everything asked of them? Weren't they asked to play?
Well, I know you're going to get into that.
They have the chance to play a St. Joe's of Montvale. And I just throwing that out there.
I know you're just throwing that out there, and I know St. Joe's of Montvale went down to Cherokee to play, but you know what? It was like Wednesday of that week when they were asked. And I think their mindset was already geared that they weren't going to play because they had tried to get games for like 10 days before that.
And it was Wall, they win last week. And if you don't know what we're talking about, St. Peter's lost last night. And Mr. Falk,
by the way.
Exactly. But read all about it. Steve Falk wrote about this on app.com, northjersey.com. You'll be able to find it. Somerville and Holy Spirit, as we mentioned, also with a case to make. So you can actually vote, by the way, in Steve's article. So be on the lookout for that to voice your opinion on who you think number 1 in the state should be. We have a lot more to get through in this show. We're going to take a look at the scene from around the state this past week, and we will show you that top 10 graphic where, yes, St. Peter's is still on top because they were number 1 to start the week. So that's the way it is, and we'll figure it out as it goes. We'll talk South and Central Jersey right after that. Back here on the home show, Ryan Ross here, ready to talk Central and South Jersey. And to help us out with that, of course, we welcome in from CourierPostOnline.com, Josh Friedman. And filling in for Greg, we have from MyCentralJersey.com, Simeon Pincus. Guys, a lot to get through again for your regions as well. And Josh, we'll start with you. Just like the Shore, we kind of had the South Jersey Super Bowl taking place this week.
Yeah, an unofficial South Jersey championship. And, last week we had this great Cherokee-Lenape game. And, this game wasn't quite as close. Holy Spirit, you mentioned him earlier, came out, really dominated up front, prevailed 21-7. Just look at the rushing numbers, and that kind of tells the story. Holy Spirit runs for more than 300 yards total. Patrick Smith, 232. You see him right here. Just incredible all year. And then Devin Lee ran for 70 more. And Lenape had negative 28 yards rushing. So you just see two different lines, two different dominations up front. And that's really what did it for Holy Spirit. The cool thing about this game was, Patrick Smith, we've talked about him all year, really having a great game. About 6 minutes left, he tweaks his ankle. Lenape's down 14-7 after throwing a 65-yard touchdown. And, they're forcing a fourth down. And the Holy Spirit's backup running back, Devin Lee's in the game. He's never been in this situation before. Holy Spirit's had this great running back depth the last several years. And he gets to be in there in crunch time. And what's he do? He gets a key fourth down. Then he makes a 27-yard touchdown run to put him up 2 scores. And then he makes an interception on the next drive to seal the game. I mean, it was a pretty cool moment for a kid who very talented, just happens to be buried on a depth chart. It was a really special moment for him, which, is great. I mean, and we talked about it all year, having the South Jersey Championship, something to celebrate. These kids were so happy. They won a state championship last year, non-public 2-state championship. And a lot of kids said this was better. Which is just crazy because there's not even a trophy to it. And it's about taking positives out of a COVID season. I know you're asking people, what you're going to remember about this season. And for me, it's just the perilousness of it all. I look at Lenape Cherokee, that game last week, that this great game that one of the best games I've ever seen, it got canceled twice. It's the third time they tried to play it. I was at Lenape when they were told the second time it was canceled. I was interviewing a player. And 15 minutes later, we go back to the huddle after our interview, after I took a couple photos of him at the stadium, and his teammates are on a knee, and they're getting told that they're not going to be able to play this game. And they wound up playing for a South Jersey championship. It was incredible. 2 weeks later, these guys who practiced one day got into this game. And that's what I'll remember, the perilousness of the season. I talked to a coach, early in the season who was telling me day after day after day, we were texting every day, I don't think we're going to make it to this game. I don't think we're going to make it to this game. We get there, we get 24 hours to the game. We're going to make it. Text me the next day. We didn't make it. It's an incredible, what we all went through. And I feel so bad for some teams who only got 2 or 3 games. You feel great for teams who played a full schedule. But just the idea that we somehow got through this fall is something I'll remember, because it's something I hopefully, knock on wood, I hope we never experience this again. I hope we just have some normalcy. And we can all just enjoy not having to look over each other's backs. That's what every coach and every player did this year. Every reporter did this year. You talked about Darren had a game get canceled. And we're all, texting each other, hey, am I driving an hour and a half to cover this game today? It's something I hope I never have to experience again. But I'm happy. I'm very happy for the people that got to experience at least some football, because we experienced it in the spring. A lot of these seniors didn't have a chance. And I'm so happy some of these seniors did.
Absolutely. A season unlike any other, no doubt about it. And like you're saying, Josh, absolutely, that some of these kids got to experience at least a little bit of the game that they loved this season. That's definitely, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, something to be thankful for. Simeon, in Central Jersey, really no big results from this week. But as we kind of look back at this season, there's a number of teams that you're going to really look back on for their accomplishments and remember well.
Yeah, absolutely. As Josh was saying, a season full of challenges with COVID and games getting canceled left and right and teams having one day of practice. The theme in Central Jersey was kind of been, programs rising from the ashes, teams that hadn't done well in recent years, all of a sudden coming out with these big seasons, teams like Scotch Plains Fanwood and Governor Livingston, who had gone so long without winning seasons. A couple that we want to highlight. So we'll start with North Plainfield. This is a team that went 1-10 2 years ago. They went 4-6 last year, and now they're 7-1. The realignment in the Big Central, with the newly formed Big Central Conference, put them in a league with a little more of a favorable schedule. They started the season on a 7-0 run before losing to Group 4 Linden last year. North Plainfield's kind of like a Group 2, Group 3, right on the border there. They really impressed with what they were able to do. They have an alum as the head coach in Jim DiPaolo. He had some real talented players like Kanye Stevens, Adam El-Sayas leading the defense, and a quarterback in Keehan Grinald, who actually missed 3 games with an injury this year and came back and picked up where he left off. And really a huge year for the Canucks. That's a community that really loves their football, so it's really great to see them posting a winning record for the first time in 10 years. Even more impressive maybe is what Watchung Hills did. They're a Group 5 team playing a very tough schedule, playing all those powerhouses in the former Delaware division, the Watchung's division of the former Mid-State Conference. They post their first winning season since 2012. They go 5-2. This is a team that Richie Seibert, the former New York Giants Super Bowl winning lineman, took over this program 4 years ago. This was one that only had 2 winning seasons since 1996. They kind of ups and downs the first couple of years. 2 years ago, they go 0-10. They come back last year. They go 5-5, and now they're 5-2 with some big wins, including Phillipsburg. Losses to Rawway and Union, 2 really good teams. Then last week, they come in, short week of practice. They didn't know who they were playing. Their games had gotten canceled. They draw Wayne Hills, and not only do they beat the North Jersey Power, but they blow them out 35-14. It would have been really nice to see what a team like Watchung Hills could have done over a real season and with the playoffs. They got a 4-year starting quarterback in Chad Martini, a group of really good veteran seniors in Justin Drews, John Bechtel, Shane Kelly, James Coslett, Andrew Russo, and even their kicker, Spencer Ostroff, has been there all along. And they have some young talent coming back soon. So while they are going to lose a lot, it's very interesting to see where this program goes now that it is a program and not just a team that nobody at the school seems to have gotten behind until the last couple of years. So it's a really good story up in Watchung Hills. And then, of course, there's Somerville. They've been no strangers to success, but they're just another downright dominant season, regardless of all the challenges. The biggest problem for Somerville is their last game. They were supposed to face Phillipsburg, which would have been a great game, but unfortunately, Somerville had to get shut down. They've now lost 5 games in 5 years. They finished undefeated this year. And this was a program that was going through a 25-game losing streak 25 years ago, which is 5 years ago, which is amazing. Dallas Whitaker, the head coach there, he has some real good talent, including a back in Cookie Desiderio, who leads the state in touchdowns. He finishes the year with over 1,500 yards and 26 TDs. A great career, over 5,000 rushing yards for him. They also have some young talent that'll be coming back. I mean, they'll lose A.J. Pena, the senior defensive end, who's kind of the leader of their defense. But they bring back a rookie sophomore quarterback from this year, and Mike Miller, who really turned some heads and impressed. Jamin Bryant, Ethan McNair. So expect Somerville to be good for a long time. And, despite all the challenges this year, they continue to be dominant. So, as much as things were, it was a tough season on some regards, some things did stay the same, at least in the Big Central.
And a lot of these teams, they accomplished so much this year. And there is one more thing that they do stand to accomplish. And, of course, that's our Team of the Year awards. We've been teasing it the last few weeks. We're going to take another reminder because we will be back, next week, 2 weeks, to crown our Teams of the Year in all of the groups as well as the conferences around the state. So we're going to take a look at that. And when we come back, we've been talking about it all show, of course, the impact COVID has had on this season. We'll get some concrete numbers of just how much of an impact it has had. That's ahead on the Red Zone Home Show.
The 2020 high school football season here in New Jersey has been unlike any other. There won't be a formal playoff system to determine state champions at the end of the season. But that's where we come in. For the first time, the USA Today Network New Jersey will crown our statewide Teams of the Year in public school groups 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, as well as one top non-public school. We'll also crown Teams of the Year in leagues and conferences throughout the state. That means the Super Football Conference, Short Conference, NJIC, Big Central Conference, and West Jersey Football League. Each Team of the Year will be honored with a one-of-a-kind trophy, all made possible by our presenting sponsor, RWJ Barnabas Health. Our writers will make Team of the Year selections with your help as well, as online reader polls coming out soon will be a key part of the selection process. Our mission here is simple. We want to acknowledge student athletes for their achievements during this challenging year. Good luck to all of our teams.
Back here on the Red Zone Home Show, Ryan Ross along with Simeon Pincus, and we are thrilled to welcome in our guest for today's show. He's an assistant coach with Piscataway High School. He's also been tracking COVID-19's impact on high school football programs statewide all season long for the USA Today Network, New Jersey. Through his research, we have Coach John Thompson, who is able to provide some incredible context and perspective, as well as some insight into how the coronavirus may impact upcoming winter sports. Coach Thompson, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. Welcome. Happy Thanksgiving, and thank you very much for having me on your show.
Thanks, Coach. Happy Thanksgiving. Let's get into some of your research. You've been tracking this all season. How many football programs have had to shut down at some point this season due to coronavirus-related issues, and how many games had to be canceled or postponed?
Well, as of Sunday night, there were 184 teams that had been shut down. Approximately 55% of all teams in New Jersey that were playing had been shut down, and there were 284 teams that had been impacted, meaning they'd had a game canceled, or they had to reschedule, or it was postponed with the hope of rescheduling. So in some way it had been directly impacted. That was a percentage of about 85% of the teams. And really, in reality, I think it's 100% of the teams, 100% of the players, the coaches, the athletic directors, the superintendents have been impacted by this, because it's a day-to-day worry, concern for all of them.
Coach, has there been one particular area of the state, or maybe one or two leagues in particular that kind of had the most, that the virus has had the most impact, or has it been kind of spread around?
It was interesting. The beginning of the year, the northern three conferences were significantly higher. The NJIC, the Super Football Conference, and the Big Central Conference. They were anywhere from 15 to 20% higher than the Shore Conference and the West Jersey Football League. But as you would expect, the numbers have evened out over the last couple of weeks, and now they're all very much similar to the state average of 55, 85.
Wow. Now, as someone, as a veteran coach, someone who's been around for as long as you have, obviously there are a lot of challenges associated with dealing with life with this virus around. What are some of the biggest ones? What are some of the biggest challenges as a coaching staff that you guys have had to overcome with sometime one day of preparation for some of these games?
Well, I mean, Piscataway, we were shut down, so unfortunately we didn't have that opportunity. But as a coach, I could say that coaches like the routine. There's a rhythm to a season. There's a rhythm to the week, to game week. There's films and weights on Saturday. There's the films that you look at on Sunday of your opponent, and you start formulating a game plan and a scouting report. And then you put things in on Monday a little bit, and then it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You feed the kids the information. You go over the stuff. Walk through Thursday, game day, Friday. There's a whole nother beautiful rhythm to the game day. And coaches and kids get attached to that, so they kind of crave that. That's not really here in the same way that it has been, I wouldn't imagine, because you're preparing, but who are you preparing for? What are you preparing for? I would think that a team would more likely be focused on themselves, more so than their upcoming opponent, just working on fundamentals, because things can change at the drop of a hat. So to prepare for a specific scheme may not really be effective in this kind of year, because it's not the scheme you're going to see. And that can happen on game day on any season. This is what you teach the kids. Well, you prepare all week for a 4-man front, and they come out in a 5-man front. Well, coach, he's not where we did all week. Well, they're allowed to change, guys. It's okay. So, you adjust. That's the beauty of coaching. That's the challenge. That's what we all love so much, is that thinking and the give and take that goes on during a game, the scheming and the chess moves and all that. And that's what makes it so exciting.
Coach, I'm curious, as you've been tracking the numbers from week to week, have you seen the numbers going up? Have there been kind of peaks and valleys throughout the season from what you've been seeing?
I based my study on Alicia Morris's study, the teacher from Kansas who looked at COVID across the United States and its impact. And that was just in the first couple of weeks of schools opening across this country. And I gleaned from that percentage that I used as a predictor. It was 4%. I figured 4% of the teams across the state should shut down each week. So that means the Big Central Conference, our conference, there's 60 teams minus the 2 who aren't playing. That'd be 2.4 teams per week. So 2 to 3 teams each week should shut down. That was fairly close in the first 3 weeks of the season. The state averaged about 5.3% of the teams each week were shutting down. But in the last 6 weeks, the average is much closer to 8 teams per week being shut down, and or 8%. I'm sorry, 8% of the teams each week being shut down. So it's gone up about 50% over the last part of the year, and it's been most significant the last 2 weeks, as I'm sure you guys are well aware. Over 60 games each week have been canceled because of COVID issue.
And Coach, too, we'll ask this one for a final question. The big question I think everyone's asking is, can this in any way be used to predict what the winter season is going to look like as football's winding down? I know myself at Wall on Friday night, the PA announcer basically kept pleading with the crowd to remember to wear masks and distance so that the winter athletes at least have a chance to play. But can this data be used as any kind of predictor for the winter season?
My guess would be that the percentages you're seeing right now will probably continue for through the next 2 holidays, through Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then several weeks after that. So you could imagine, football, if you shut down a program, you lose 1 game, maybe 2 games. But basketball, you have 2 or 3 games a week. So if you're shut down for 2 weeks, which could affect 10% of the teams each week, you're talking 6 games for those teams. So the impact, I would think, would probably be pretty significant. Same thing with wrestling. They can have 2 or 3 meets a week. So that would be my guess going forward as things stand now, unless something changed in terms of the rates across the state, adherence to protocols, et cetera.
Coach John Thompson from Piscataway. Coach, thanks for first off keeping these statistics all year long and for coming on the show and sharing some of your insight with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you again for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we're going to now check in with our 2 Chris's from the Red Zone. First, it will be Chris Melvin for the recruiting corner, and then we'll check in with Chris Iseman for the latest edition of the Rutgers Report, and we have predictions just around the corner.
Hello, this is Chris Mel. Welcome to this week's episode of Chris Mel Recruiting Corner. This week, we're shining a spotlight on New Jersey's 2021 top safety and future Virginia Tech Hokie. Out of Dwight Morrow High School in Englewood, New Jersey, we have 6', 190-pound safety, Jalen Hoyle. The hard-hitting Hoyle chose Virginia Tech over offers from schools like Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and West Virginia. He says the staff down in Blacksburg was the first to recognize his talents along with the program's strong history of recruiting and developing defensive backs. He says the coaches down there treated him and his family as if they were family members of their own. This season, Hoyle registered 46 tackles, 29 solo tackles, 1 interception that he returned for a touchdown, and 1 forced fumble. And did I mention that he also plays quarterback? He threw for 683 yards, 9 touchdowns, and ran for 640 yards and 13 touchdowns. It's just 6 games. And if that isn't enough for his athletic resume, he also runs track in the spring. Jalen wears number 5 because he sees it as a symbol of goodness and the grace of God. He also wears number 5 because his dad wore it as a football player at Fordham University. He wants to wear number 5 at Virginia Tech, but understands that it's not going to be handed to him. He's going to have to earn it. Thank you for watching the Chris Mel Recruiting Corner this past season. Good luck to all the recruits. Chris Melvin here. See you next season.
Hey everyone, it's Chris Iseman from the USA Today Network, New Jersey. I'm at SHI Stadium in Piscataway, where Rutgers just lost a heartbreaker, another one, this time 48-42 to Michigan in triple overtime. Just a wild back and forth game. People are going to be talking about it for a long time, but in the end, Michigan scored in the 3rd overtime period, and then on his sort of last chance desperation heaving in the end zone, Noah Vedral was intercepted, and that was the game. It was just a wild game, and Rutgers had chances to win, but they just couldn't pull it out. And really the game changed in the second quarter, late in the second quarter, when Michigan made a quarterback switch, putting Cade McNamara in for Joe Milton, and McNamara just kind of had his way a lot of times against Rutgers defense, and that was the big difference. It's just a game that Rutgers isn't quite ready to win yet. They're getting there. They're making progress. It's certainly much better than they were playing, in previous years. But it's just going to take some more time before they're able to pull out games like this. So next week they'll be in Indiana to play Purdue, and they'll try to snap this 4-game losing streak. Stay tuned to APP.com and NorthJersey.com all week for more coverage of this game and preview coverage of next week's matchup against Purdue. Thanks very much.
Back here on the home show, our thanks to Chris Melvin and Chris Iseman for their contributions all season. We've been wrapping up the big games. We still have some games coming up this Thanksgiving weekend, and now it's time for our prediction segment. That's right. It is the Red Zone Pick 6. We are ready to get into our games that we have coming up, spread out really throughout the weekend. And we'll start in North Jersey, Darren, with St. Joe's and DePaul.
Yes, the debate for number one is going to be fun to have in the next couple of days. Up here in North Jersey, we have 12 games. Just putting it out there. We got a bunch on Wednesday. We're going to talk about number one a lot, but the team that might be playing the best might be those Green Knights of St. Joe's. Audric Estime has had an outstanding season. He might actually come close to 2,000 yards in 8 games. Michigan State commit has had an outstanding year. May not be going to Michigan State after all. We'll have to wait and see. My pick, drumroll please, wait for that graphic to change. The pick is the Green Knights to beat DePaul. Should be a good one. The final game for DePaul coach John McKenna, too. He's becoming the AD.
We are looking forward to that one in North Jersey. Now over to Central Jersey and Simeon. We have New Providence and Governor Livingston.
Yes, a long-time Thanksgiving rivalry on a slightly different stage. These are teams, they've played each other every year since 1998 on Thanksgiving Day. For the first time, they will play Thanksgiving Eve. Now, for once this season, this has nothing to do with COVID. This was pre-scheduled that they're going to play Friday nights when the game's at New Providence that has lights, and on the Thursdays when GL that does not have lights. New Providence snapped a 5-game losing streak in this series last year to take a 27-8-2 all-time lead. New Prov is in the mix for the Group 1 Team of the Year in the Big Central Conference at 7-1, led by junior back Charlie Barth. Governor Livingston, 4-1, had a nice year to rebound from a 1-10 season. They're going to get together Wednesday night at Leader Field, and my pick is the New Providence Pioneers.
All right, that's the pick out of Central Jersey, New Providence to win that one. Here at the Shore, Steve, 2 opponents that are used to playing other teams on Thanksgiving, now playing each other.
This is 2020 and COVID-19 in a nutshell. Yes, these are 2 teams that have always played on Thanksgiving, but not against each other. Long Branch was going to play Red Bank for the 98th time, but however, Red Bank had to shut down last week due to COVID. Long Branch, Red Bank were actually scheduled during the season, but they moved the game to Thanksgiving thinking they could get it in. They kind of gambled and they lost. Manasquan always has played Wall for 20 straight years on Thanksgiving. They played that during week 5. Manasquan had a game against Central last week that was canceled because Central had to shut down. So these 2 teams decided to get together. Long Branch is 1-5, but they're 1-5 against a very tough schedule. They played Red Bank Catholic. They played Rumson. They played Mater Dei. They were competitive in some of those games. Manasquan is 4-3, and their sophomore quarterback, Brett Patton's had a solid year. But the pick is, I'm going to go with Long Branch based on the tougher schedule.
There you go. The Green Wave on Thanksgiving over Manasquan. Down to South Jersey, another classic Thanksgiving matchup, Millville and Vineland.
Yeah, it's the oldest rivalry in the state. 149th meeting between these 2 teams, which first started playing in 1893. I've covered this game many times. It won't be this week, but it's always a Thanksgiving game because of COVID. Got pushed back a couple days, but I feel like these teams would have I know the season ends Sunday, but I feel like if these teams couldn't play on Sunday, I feel like they would have played an unofficial park game on Wednesday or Thursday next week just to get it in, because there's no way these 2 teams wouldn't want to play this season. Vineland has a 4-game winning streak in this game, the longest in decades. Levi Manson had a game-winning touchdown with 62 seconds left last year to win that game for the Fighting Clan. Both teams are 1 game under 500 this year, but 6 of their 7 losses combined have been to South Jersey Meade 15 teams. So a lot of good losses between these 2 teams. Each has a kind of a do-it-all star. Millville, LeQuint Allen, Vineland, and Jonathan Toney. I'm going to go with Millville, though, in this one. I think Millville breaks the streak finally. They've had some this streak usually don't have too long a streaks in this one because there's so much anger built up from the other side. I feel like the Thunderbolts finally get one on top and finally get Vineland and bring the Daily Journal Victory Cup back home to Millville.
There you go. That's a big one down in South Jersey. And then last but not least, Darren, we'll end with you. Bergen Catholic and St. Peter's. This could have an impact on who ends up number 1 in the state.
One of these days, they got to go to that Millville Vineland game. 1893, huh?
Yep.
That's a long time. I feel like we've talked about this game before. It's because we did. It was scheduled a couple of weeks ago. It was heralded as our big number 1 versus number 2 showdown in the USA Today State Top 25. However, in the weeks past, Bergen Catholic has suffered a 1-point loss to Don Bosco. St. Peter's Prep just suffered a 1-point loss to Seton Hall Prep. I don't know really what's at stake anymore in this game. So, I mean, it used to look like it was going to be a clear cut. Hey, the winner's going to be number one. Now, we'll just have to talk about it, guys, the next couple of days. Let's just hope the game gets played. My pick is St. Peter's Prep. Well, or Bergen. My pick, you know what? They're showing Bergen, but the pick is down to St. Peter's. I have gone back and forth. My pick is actually Bergen Catholic because I believe in chaos, boys. It's going to be chaos. That way, Wall, Bergen, Peters, Somerville, we all have an argument to be number one.
And some chaos for us, too, to end the show. Why not? That was only 5 picks, by the way, so to make it 6, I don't know. Me versus Turkey. Turkey continues its dominance on Thursday. We'll find out, I guess. Thank you guys for your contributions all season. As I said, and as the promo a couple minutes ago said, we're off next week. So if you're looking for us December 1st, we won't be here. Sorry. We'll see you on December 8th for a special show. That will be our award show where we will crown our teams of the year in all of the groups and non-public, as well as from the conferences around the state. Thank you for watching. Thanks to Coach John Thompson from Piscataway. Thanks to Darren, Steve, Simeon, and Josh. Thanks to our folks behind the scenes. I'm Ryan Ross. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.